Signals from behind the glass, just behind you, just behind the camera there, bringing our half-time chat to a conclusion there with John Pearson and with Liam Sutcliffe, and also with John Whaling. Phil and Baz, the unsung heroes of this programme, are behind there choosing what you see at any given moment, and they're going to home in on you right now, John. It's a pleasure to welcome you to the show. In the absence of James Gregg, he's found something better to do this week. He's across the pond.
All right.
Chasing golf balls around. Yeah, Ryder Cup.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'll forgive him. He's probably at a better gig than this. I believe he'll be back next week, hopefully. And it's good to see you, because we've been talking about you, John.
Yeah.
Chief Executive of Sheffield Eagles. James has mentioned you repeatedly recently, and from Sheffield Live, very best wishes to you in your efforts to keep Sheffield Eagles going. Where are you as of now? Because you launched this appeal to raise £20,000.
Yeah.
How much have you raised now?
As it coming on air, it's at just over 17.3. Heavily indebted to Nikki Swire, who was the daughter of the retiring chairman, Ian Swire. She's done this all off her own back. She contacted the club and said, "We'll remind if she had a go." Told her to get on with it, and she set up a GoFundMe page and set a target of £20,000 in 3 weeks, which we all thought were quite ambitious, but you know, we sat there and kept our fingers crossed. 2 weeks in, and she's got 17,300, and
brilliant.
She's done an absolutely superb job, and you know, and that's going to buy us time now to get the investor over the line. We had more meetings again yesterday. Some really positive things came out of those meetings, and Mark will start sitting down and talking to players next week. So
excellent.
So that's
you actually sit down and negotiate with players for contracts for
next season. Yeah.
And that was a position you couldn't have envisaged a few weeks ago.
No. You know, we're still not over the line. We've still got one or two hurdles to cross. We've not paid a tax bill, so we're in the London Gazette today. We have to talk about these things. That tax bill will be paid in the next 24 hours.
It will be.
It will
How
be
much
paid
is it for?
17,600.
Which is almost the value of this fund. 17,300 has been raised, and your tax bill is 17,600.
Yeah, and we knew that were looming.
We'll have a whip round and raise the other 300.
Well, hopefully payday tomorrow. Hopefully we might get a few more in after payday tomorrow.
Yeah, isn't this a happy sort of coincidence? So that literally has been a lifesaver.
Oh, without doubt. Yeah, without doubt. Yeah. Because the Rugby Football League have been great with us. They've been helping us through this hard time. But the Rugby Football League will not get involved in sorting out HMRC
tax bills.
So you know, that's down to us.
So it was a winding up petition that was due to be in court, or due to be in court tomorrow?
No. It's been advertised today, so it will due in court on 31st of October. So you know, we're a long way off.
You can head it off.
But you just don't want those things in the press. You know, it's not what we've been about.
No, it's the first time I've heard it.
Never happened before, and hopefully it'll never happen again.
Okay, and the question fundamentally you were asking when you launched that appeal, or when Nicky did, on behalf of Sheffield Eagles, I thought fundamentally you were saying to Sheffield, do you want rugby league in this city?
Yeah.
Are you bothered about it? The answer you've had convinces you that
17,300 yeses there.
Yeah.
You know, I think for a city the size of Sheffield, not to have a rugby league club would be wrong. You know, yes, it is a northern sport. You know, the roots are in the north. It is expanding. You know, the league below us has got teams from all the way down south. You know, in London and in Gloucester and in Bristol. The sport is spreading. We're just on the edge, and for the club to go out of existence after all this time, you know, 32 years that we've been running now, would just be a travesty, and that's why I got back on board in February to try and change the fortunes, and it's been a rough ride. You know, it's been 7 months of really hard work, but you know, we're getting there. We're getting there on the pitch. You know, we've got a cup final to play on Sunday. Yeah. And we're all looking forward to that.
This is against Bradford, having beaten Halifax in the semi-finals.
Yeah, and the team that beat us 80 points to 0 2 weeks ago.
Right.
So,
yeah.
so we own one.
You owe them. You owe them a few.
matey.
You owe them a few. Not one. That's the final of the Championship Shield this weekend on Sunday. We'll return to John. Not out of the woods yet. Talk about, are you going to get that elusive investor and the Olympic Legacy Park and everything? But it's good news, Liam and John, isn't it? That Rugby League, it looks as if it can be saved.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
You must have done a fantastic job since you started in February, and obviously there's some great support there.
As I say, we'll return to it. Meantime, Sheffield Wednesday v Brighton on Saturday is another very, very attractive game.
Oh, yeah.
And a very challenging game as well for the Owls, isn't it?
Oh, I mean, we beat them, didn't we, 2-0, and beat them in the playoff semi-final, but I mean, they had 4 or 5 players missing in the first game, and then they got a few injuries, and so we had a little bit of luck, and we went down to Brighton. I mean, that onslaught in that first 20 minutes was
terrifying.
Was unbelievable. I don't think I've ever seen a start from a team like that.
No.
And again, Westwood was in top form. We had a bit of luck. I think they hit the post and it rebounded right across the line and went out for a goal kick at the other side. And then Ross Wallace with a swings one in. I think Gary Hooper's just give the centre half a little nudge, and it's in the corner of the goal. I mean, that goal just came at the right time. Brighton must have been seriously deflated.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen an onslaught like that from any team over the years. It just was extraordinary.
Yeah.
And to survive it. You mentioned Westwood. When a goalkeeper's excellent for a prolonged period, when he starts to make a couple of mistakes, it's more noticeable, isn't it? Which he's done lately. But
yeah, but like he's earned the right to make a mistake. Yeah, and I mean,
he knows, former goalkeeper.
Yeah, but I mean, we had Chris Kirkland before, who I thought was excellent, and then once Kieran joined, we'd moved up another level.
Yeah.
You know, he's been superb for the last 2 years or so.
Yeah. Carlos, the manager, or the head coach as they call him, effectively it's the same role. I think at the start everybody thought, oh, it's going to continental system different. Actually, he's manager, isn't he, really?
Yeah.
In all but name. And researching him this week, there isn't an awful lot on Wikipedia because he's moved around so much and the precise dates are difficult to pin down. But he'd had 14 clubs. I think one of those was twice, 2 spells, Victoria Setúbal. And he's never been in one place longer than this as a manager, and every prospects are going on for some considerable time.
Well, let's hope so. I mean, I think he's done a fantastic job. Like you said, when he first came, I didn't know who Carlos was. Didn't really, not really heard about him or anything. And I mean, when I thought Stuart Gray did a fantastic job before him. I mean, when Stuart took over from Dave Jones, we needed snookers to stay up, and he did it, didn't he? He kept us up. He did a superb job, and I was half hoping that he would get the job. And then Carlos comes in, but Carlos is, he's been superb around the club. Not only, as a football, but as a person. Yeah. I can talk about one particular manager. There was a cloud over the club, and it wasn't enjoyable going in. But then Carlos has come in, breath of fresh air. They're interlock on every door. You don't have to have a code to put in to get past this one, to get past that one. And
everybody watching is going to say, ask him who the manager is or was that was a cloud over the club. So I've asked you. Go on.
In my opinion, and it is only my opinion, it was Dave Jones. I mean, I received a phone call from. I'm still friends with Mickey Lyons, and it was the first time I'd seen him, and I said to him, I was doing a question and answer with the chairman and Dave Jones, so Mickey Lyons had phoned me, and I went, oh, and they were apparently big mates. He went, oh, wish him all the best, tell him, and Mickey Lyons in Australia. So I said, oh,
Pals from Everton.
I said, I've been speaking to a mate of yours, Mickey Lyons. He's, sends his best wishes, and and how wants to know how you are and all that. And he just nodded and went, okay. And I thought, oh, you don't really want to talk to me, so fair play. You didn't have to talk to me.
There was a side to Dave Jones that people talked about that away from the football, he was a life and soul and a joker and whatever.
They might have been, but
and I never saw that, to be honest. But why would you show that to a journalist?
Yeah,
so I just. He could be very dour to deal with. Yeah,
he didn't have to. He didn't have to be my best friend, But I just thought he might have been sort of polite to
Yeah.
You know, Mickey Lyons is his mate. He's saying hello from
And he's a
Australia.
really bubbly, outgoing, life and soul
Lyons,
character. Mick Lyons, you couldn't meet a nicer guy. You know, I remember him as captain. If you speak to him, give him my regards, because he was always brilliant. He was always one of the first you go to for an interview as well, and he never shirked.
No. He's,
Win, lose or draw, he would always do.
I love him.
Which reminds me, Jack Charlton's got a book out very, very soon.
Has he?
Yeah, which I'm looking forward to getting a copy of very imminently. And that's going to be interesting, because I think Jack signed Mick Lyons for Wednesday. I'm pretty sure he did. He did. If Carlos has had any criticism, it's been slotting in or trying to get your head around what he sees as his best midfield and how he's going to incorporate all the players that he's brought in, not least Alman Abdi, who's been a total enigma so far. You know, arrived on the back of half a season in the Premier League in what was real pedigree, just not seen it. Is that his fault, or has he not been played in the right way? What's going on there?
Not knowing enough about Alman Abdi myself. Didn't watch Watford last year, so
nor me.
You know, so I don't know. But I think he sort of said a little bit the other night about, you know, the Wednesday way and integrating players, and somebody had said that, you know, Fletcher's settled in really well, and he said, yeah, he's come in and he's made that position his own and stuff like that. And he said, and some players it might just take a little bit of time, and that's what we're doing now. We're trying to introduce Alman Abdi, we're trying to introduce Dave Jones, and which, you know, they both, Dave Jones played the other night.
Jones, yeah.
You know, so we have got an abundance of talent, and it's just trying to, like you said, it's like, but when you've got 3 games in a week, I can understand Carlos rotating. Yes. You don't like to call it rotating, I know that.
No.
But, you know, we've got players who are Forestieri, who's completely fresh now for Saturday.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think that over the course of the season, that Carlos knows enough. He's picking what he thinks is the best team for that night, you know, and looking forward to the next game. And getting the best out of the squad, not just picking 11 and then hoping, oh well, he's injured, we'll put him in. No. You know, and he's keeping everybody happy, or as far as you can do, doing that way. So
it's good to see.
I think it's good to see. I think it's the new way. You know, and you can say, people might be sat at home going, yeah, well, he's on such and such, he should be able to play football every day. They actually could play football every day. Yeah. But on the 10th day, that standard, it would be humanly impossible to be the standard of the first day. Yeah. But they could play every day.
I do sense Carlos gravitating to what he thinks is his best team now, having deliberated. And it's interesting that most of those players are the team of before. Bannon re-established in it. Also, obviously, Kieran Lee.
Yep.
And it's only really Reach, and great hopes of Reach, absolutely.
He looks quality, doesn't he? And he's not playing in his favourite position.
No. What was wrong with it? The one criticism I had against Forest, he took up some magnificent positions on that left-hand side in oceans of space at the beginning of the second half. And it was almost like they were strategically ignoring him. Players were just not going.
I understand what you're saying. He did find lots of space. I mean, as he did against Bristol the week before, the game before. And but I thought that when Bannon got the ball, that the Forest were actually forcing him to come back out the other side.
Did you?
They were showing him the other way because they didn't want Reach to have the ball. Yeah,
but I thought there were ways of him getting the ball to Reach, nevertheless. But all right, you're a pro, and there's a reason for that.
Not anymore.
He was at one time. Liam Sutcliffe. Okay, so we talked in the first half about the relaunch of the soccer school, linked with Chesterfield Football Club. Sir Rodney Walker and FBT involved in that. And they clearly saw something, and he's talked about it being a role model for other similar ventures across the world. What is it that he's seen? What is the essential attraction there?
I think he's probably seen the same things that Chris Turner, you know, and Chesterfield Football Club have seen. You know, we've got players from 18 different nationalities. It's all been done really since, you know, 1st of February, sort of the rebuild within the International Academy as it is now. It's, you know, positive that they've seen everything that other people have seen. Obviously, I believe in it. It's my baby. And it's a model that is transferable, that can be taken to wherever in the United Kingdom. It can work with whichever football club it should wish to. And you know, there are football clubs that have taken an interest and made contact in order to have something like what Chesterfield FC have got. And it's got a good track record, you know, of players moving on to, you know, better things, professional terms or you know. So
well, FBT are based in Thailand, and I think they've got an idea of what they can do out in Thailand. But also, it strikes me that it could be a model for lower league clubs in England,
Quite probably,
in terms of easing the cost of developing their own talent in-house and having an affiliated academy from outside that develops them. But of course, you're requiring parents to pay, aren't you, for their kids to go in?
You are. And there's no avoidance of that. But I think if you can get the quality of coaching and you can get your recruitment right and your facilities are of the standard that's required, you know, that you know, parents will look and go, you know, actually this is not bad.
No.
This is a good place for my son to be. He enjoys it. He's learning all the time, and take away that that need for professional football tomorrow. You know, kids will, whatever sport it is, kids will find the way. They might need a second chance, a third chance, a fourth chance. You know, that's why we have, you know, a 9s to 16s, Centre for Excellence. We have an under-17s, an under-19s, and under-21s, and they are, you know, the majority of those players are also in education. So when the players leave us, if they do leave us, it might be to, you know, something better, but in terms of football, but they've got an education behind them. They've got social skills. They've got all these things that really, you know, kids need to go into the big wide world.
Well, it's a visionary enterprise. I wish you every success, and it's good to see a visionary enterprise vindicated in this way after the difficulties that you've had for yourself, and also Chris Turner, who I know believed in it a great deal.
Yeah.
I mean, it did struck me from outside, and I'm only talking about a tiny minority here, that when the news came out, and I think I actually broke it, you know, on Twitter and in my Sheffield Telegraph column about the rescue of this enterprise, there was almost a stunned silence. It was almost as if one or two people, and I'm only talking about a minority, were almost disappointed it wasn't bad news. You know,
Maybe so.
Their concern, the concern, in my view, was absolutely legitimate. But you do wonder about a minority of people. It's kind of aimed, and I am talking about a small minority, almost vendetta style against the chairman, Dave Allen, and Chris Turner, who can do no right in the opinion of some people. I'm not asking you to comment. But yeah, it strikes me that without Dave Allen's investment, that Chesterfield will be back at Saltergate, or worse still, nowhere. And, you know, the Proact Stadium is down to him. And he's a businessman, so he's come in and invested, but I don't see him making fortunes out of it. That's my view. It won't be unanimously approved, but the vast majority of supporters, I think, are very even-minded and fair. But there's just a very, very small minority that I think, you know, and they make a lot of noise. John Whaling, you would like a lot of support. You would like a vociferous minority, wouldn't you? Because the one thing you lack is just, despite the successes you've had, you've just not had the crowds, have you?
No, and I think that's down to the fact that we haven't had the ground. You know, Don Valley Stadium were pretty soulless. We were talking pre-programme about the atmosphere on Tuesday night at Blackburn. Well, you couldn't get a much more flat atmosphere than what you used to get at Don Valley. And we were fairly successful despite that, you know, when we were in Super League, when we won the Challenge Cup in '98. But what we've always craved for is a rugby ground. And that's what we, fingers crossed, will get down at the Olympic Legacy Park. And the idea is that it's a rugby stadium. You know, there'll be opportunities to stand as well as to sit. A 5,000-seater stadium, which, as we are at the moment, will be absolutely spot on. If we do actually manage to get up into Super League at some point, there will be the opportunity to make that bigger. But initially, 5,000 will be a nice-sized stadium. You'll be close to the action, and you'll be able to hear the tackles going in, and that's what rugby league's all about. It's a tough sport.
Yeah.
Listened to Richard Caborn on your programme last week, and he was talking about the fact that we only play 16 home games. The reason we only play 16 home games is if you're playing at that intensity for 32 games in a year, your body knows you've played at that intensity. And there's no way that a rugby league player could play back-to-back games like an ice hockey player does.
You need squad rotation.
You know,
That's what
well, we have squad rotation. You know, we have 25 people usually in the squad. There's 17 play on game day, and we have we have substitutions, and players can come on and off unlimited numbers of times. So your big forwards, they will probably get 2, 3, 4 spells. Your backs, they're expected to play for the full 80 minutes.
Taking your point there,
yeah.
you're not out of the woods yet. You've got the player negotiations going on. You can sort out the tax bill, but you still need that investor. So where are we on that now?
We're making good progress, and I'm very hopeful that over the next 2 to 3 weeks we've got an heads of terms. We're just talking about those, and they'll be fine-tuned. But I'm hoping in the next 2 to 3 weeks we'll actually have a signature, and the investor will come on board. He wants the existing board of Sheffield Eagles to continue. He thinks that we've done quite a good job, and it's not about the problems we've got is not about the debt. You know, you're talking to Liam about the debt. Our creditors list is less than 30k, and I'll bet there's very, very few rugby league clubs can say they've got a creditors list of less than 30k. Yeah. You know, our problem's been we've got an investor who came in, wanted to take us full time, took us full time, and then for various reasons decided that he couldn't continue.
Right.
So he left us with full-time contracts and no support.
But now you've got a new man. I take it's a man.
It's a company.
It's a company, is it?
It's a company.
And they've agreed, as things stand.
In principle, yeah. You know,
Sheffield local company.
It's a local company. We've exchanged heads of terms today, where they've said what they're willing to do and what they want us to do. We've got another board meeting next week where we'll go through that. They want to see a budget for the next 12 months, which is just about there. You know, we don't get to this stage of the season without already budgeting for next year. So that's just about there. We just need to polish it up a bit.
What
really.
level of investment are we talking about from there?
I think that would be an unfair thing to say at this point in time, but it will be a 6-figure investment.
6-figure investment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's all very interesting. You heard it here first, and hope that develops. It's a local company. It'd be naive of me to ask you what that local company was. Wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? Right, okay. But I've no doubt we'll be hearing it in 2 or 3 weeks' time, and it'll be great
Hopefully,
to hear that news.
Yeah.
John Whaling, thanks very much indeed.
Yeah.
See, we always get to an upbeat ending to the programme, as we have with Sheffield Eagles, as we have with the Chesterfield affiliated soccer school with Liam Sutcliffe. I'm delighted to hear about that, and for coming in and facing some awkward questions as well in the first half. But good news in the end, and good news as ever from John Pearson about Sheffield Wednesday, and Sheffield United, let me say, are doing very well as well. We haven't neglected you because
we've got exactly the same. We've played 7. We've got exactly the same wins, draws, same goal difference. There's only one difference.
No, I'm not going to go into that. They both won 1-0 the other night. Blades fans, the next week or 2 is for you. This will be, if you missed this, it's on my YouTube channel later. Repeat at 11 o'clock. Meantime, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week, same time. See you then. Bye.